Today, our topic is going to be why we do what we do. Welcome to the channel, my fellow success seekers. My name is Rex Reason, and this is A Reason to Succeed. We start off today with what I affectionately call the ham story. A newlywed couple wanted to have their respective families come to Thanksgiving dinner at their house. The menu was decided upon with boneless baked ham being chosen as the main entree. On the morning of Thanksgiving, the bride and her husband began making preparations for the evening festivities. The bride took the rather large ham and placed it on a cutting board. As her husband watched, she took a large butcher knife and with its razor-sharp edge, cut a 2-inch slice off of both ends of the ham. Her husband didn't think much about that until she proceeded to throw both chunks of ham into the trash. He then gently questioned her as to why she had just thrown away 2 perfectly good, expensive pieces of ham. She looked at him with an air of confidence and explained, "This is how my mother cooks a ham." Her husband was confused, but decided to ask his mother-in-law about this practice later that evening. After dinner was concluded, the husband engaged his mother-in-law in a conversation. He then asked her the question that had been running through his mind during the meal. "Do you mind if I ask you a question?" "No, go ahead." "Do you cut a 2-inch slab off of each end of the ham and throw it away before you cook it?" "Of course I do." "Why?" "That is how my mother always cooked a ham." "Why?" "Oh, I just wondered." As soon as he could, and not trying to be too obvious or rude, he excused himself from the conversation. His eyes scanned the house until he spotted his wife's grandmother. Like a bloodhound on the scent of his quarry, the husband maneuvered through the crowd until he was sitting next to Grandma. Grandma, sitting in her wheelchair, looks kindly at her grandson-in-law and gives him a warm smile. He returns the favor and engages her in some small talk. Finally, he broaches the subject of the ham. "Do you mind if I ask you a question?" "Of course not. You're such a good boy," as she pinches his cheeks. Gently grabbing her wrist and extricating himself from her eagle-like grasp, he is finally able to ask the question that has been driving him to distraction all afternoon. "Do you cut a 2-inch slab off of each end of the ham and throw it away before you cook it?" Grandma narrows her eyes and leans forward. "Of course I do." "Why?" I was just curious." Grandmother-in-law, leaning in close, whispers, "I'll tell you a secret. If I don't cut the ends off the ham, it won't fit in my pan." This funny little story illustrates that many times we do things without ever questioning why. In our story, 2 generations of ladies cut off the end of a ham because that's what their mother did. Don't be too hard on these ladies. You and I both know that there are things that we do because that is the way we were taught to do them. And like these ladies, we don't question why we do what we do. For example, no matter how early you started pronouncing words, you weren't born with that skill. You learned how to pronounce words from others. You learned how to do it a specific way, and that is the way you have continued to do it. With most tasks, that is a good thing, because learned behaviors free up your mind to think of more important tasks instead of wasting mental energy on routine daily tasks like combing your hair or tying your shoes. You do them without even thinking. Think of all the routines you engage in on a daily basis. All of them are learned behaviors. But a learned behavior that allows you to act without thinking is not always a good thing, as we can see from our ham story. What does all of this have to do with success? I'm glad you asked. For small things, questioning why we do something a certain way is really not important. As long as the potatoes get peeled, does it really matter if you use a peeler or a knife? If your wife squeezes the toothpaste tube in the middle and you start on the end, is it really important enough to argue over? If it is, buy 2 tubes of toothpaste. Problem solved. Back to the point. Innovations and change in thinking all come about by asking questions. So, why don't we ask questions? A lot of it is rooted in FEAR/fear. We will talk about FEAR/fear in our next video. Many times when we ask a person why they are doing what they are doing, the way they are doing it, they become defensive. Typical answers are, "That's the way we've always done it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it." Or, "Never change a running system." If we probe a little bit and ask, well, why don't we try to? We encounter resistance, and instead of risking rejection, looking foolish, being laughed at, or otherwise being ridiculed, we go with the flow and don't ask questions anymore. Fortunately, there have always been a few that have gone against the status quo. They are the ones that ask, why? Why not? Or, how can we do it better? If not for these brave individuals, we might still be riding horses on our daily commute, believe the world is flat, and only communicate face to face instead of using an electronic device. Those that have risked rejection, looking foolish, being laughed at, or otherwise being ridiculed because they dared ask the question, why, are the people we honor, since they were strong enough to tune the negative world out and go on and succeed. Here is an abbreviated list of things that at one time were thought to be impossible. The 4-minute mile, the horseless buggy, the light bulb, talking pictures, flight, landing on the moon. If you are in manufacturing, engineering, or another creative career, try to figure out more efficient ways to complete a process. Discovery is not just for scientists. Think in terms of how it all comes down to perspective. For example, how can I earn an extra $100 per month? How can I streamline this process? How can we fill in that blank? When you ask how questions, you've just made the task believable to your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind then goes, oh, I have a challenge. How can I solve this puzzle? This is called problem solving. It is a skill that you can develop, but you will have to work at developing it just as you would any other skill. Yes, I know, there's that work word again. Isn't it funny how often work precedes success? Just in case you're not sure, let me clarify it so that there's no misunderstanding. Work always comes before success. Colossians 3:23 says, "Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters." To sum it all up, in business, at work, at home, or wherever you are, ask yourself, why do I do this task this way? How could I do it better? The answer that comes to you might just be what you need to push you further down the road to success. There it is, my fellow success seekers. Do you agree or disagree? Comment below and let me know what you think. Please subscribe if you find this content helpful. Be cognizant of your actions and why you do what you do. Until next time, this is Rex Reason signing off.